Now, less than 2 years since his, massive coronation over here in the very heart of the United Kingdom, it looks like His Majesty the King, King Charles III, will have to rethink exactly how he wishes to push ahead with a more modernised monarchy. As ever, let me explain. Morning, nice to see you, chums. Thank you so much for joining me today. And as ever, welcome one and all brand new subscribers. You know, it was always going to be difficult, wasn't it, for His Majesty the King, King Charles III. I mean, we all loved Queen Elizabeth. And the problem was, when you have somebody that's had an exceptional run, well, it's very difficult to follow through. I often cite that as, say, like King Edward, where he had to follow on from Queen Victoria. And if you think, he was slightly luckier than His Majesty the King, King Charles, because he was at the cusp of the new media age. And I mentioned this before, that suddenly he was able to take the opportunity of, daily newspapers, tabloids, moving picture. If he'd have hung on a bit longer, of course, radio would have come his way too. And many feel that he would have felt absolutely wonderful with it. Now, many situations have developed literally in the short space that His Majesty the King literally took to the throne. And it can't be easy, as I say, because suddenly you're now looking at whole different generations, a whole slimmed down monarchy. And if you remember, Her Royal Highness the Royal Princess Anne basically said, no, it's a mistake. We shouldn't slim it down. We should have continued. Many suspect that a lot of Anne's ideas were the right ideas. But here's where it gets really interesting now, because the Oath of Allegiance from Grenada, well, they basically decided to scrap that. And this truly is a massive blow for the monarchy, whichever way you look at it, because Barbados did a similar thing a couple of years ago. Now, you might say, well, why is this really important? Now, the problem that you have right now, literally with the monarchy, are people are either in it or they're not. And when you consider and you look at the younger generation, and particularly the people that are now coming into the country that wouldn't necessarily know our history and our background and why it's so important for our heritage, well, the reason why apparently His Majesty the King is so keen to cross all borders, as it were, by, a person to all faiths, etc. And that's the reason why he's been welcoming to certain things in Windsor Castle, like the Ramadan meal and stuff. But that really isn't cutting it with the core audience that love the British monarchy. But who will tell him? Well, according to a very well-placed source, the situation is now developed because clearly, as this makes headlines around the world, you have to look at the next generation. And that next generation is indeed Prince William and, of course, Prince George, Prince Louis, and moving on further down the line. If they don't have something like what we have now, which were, of course, called the British Empire, it becomes very problematic for the monarchy, because consequently, if you are slimming it down, where are you the head of? And the other side of the coin as well is, if you're only then the head of, say, here in the United Kingdom, say New Zealand, the Commonwealth, etc., and it becomes smaller and smaller, it also becomes more difficult to convince the rest of the people that you are, in fact, and I hate to say this, but value for money. You see how this works. Now, consequently, apparently His Majesty the King has welcomed the decision and wishes everybody well. And I'm sure they do. I mean, these are different times. And the reason why they've set out this, proposal, and the reason why they've gone down this route, you can fully understand. When that was all put together over 100 plus years ago, they were totally different times, a totally different Great Britain, and consequently, everybody evolves. But for the British monarchy, the only way that they can evolve is move with the times. But as we move with the times, of course, can their power still sustain and make, of course, a lot of people think that the British monarchy are still more importantly relevant and equally more importantly worth their money? As I've said to you before, I am a royalist. I think they're very good as an ambassador for the rest of the world. They put us on the world stage where many people can't. People love the fact that we put on a wonderful display from all of our armed forces, the troop in the colours, all of that sort of stuff. It is all part and parcel of our wonderful British heritage. But as many people are now advising His Majesty the King, you have to listen to the people, because ultimately, in the end, the people decide. It's going to be interesting how he deals with the President of the United States, Donald Trump, because as we saw when he met the current British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, he wasn't frightened in voicing exactly how he felt Britain was becoming. And this time around, I don't think he'll hold too much back, also with His Majesty the King. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.